You're watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.
Welcome into the Toronto Sports Rush, presented on the Bet Rivers Network. EJ Hradek here, and very happy to be joined by NHL Hall of Famer, Hockey Hall of Famer, four-time Olympian and Stanley Cup champion, Hart Trophy winner, Norris Trophy winner, did a lot of things in his career. Chris Pronger. Chris, thanks so much for taking the time. You are the perfect person to talk to at this time of the year with the Olympics going on. You did play, as I said, in 4 Olympic Games. What have you made of the first week as we get ready now for these knockout games on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think if you're Canada, you look at wave after wave. I mean, they've been very dominant from start to finish in all 3 of their games. If you're the U.S., you're looking at they slowly have kind of found their groove and found themselves. Up until their game yesterday, I thought they were, I don't know if they were hesitant or they just were kind of struggling to create offense.
Yeah.
While putting up 5 or 6 a game, it was it seemed like a lot of work versus Canada, where they were dominant and had a lot of in-zone offensive zone time and created a lot of opportunities, a lot of grade A chances, whereas the U.S. struggled a little bit in that department. And I think the last game they really kind of started to get to their physical game. They had everybody engaged, and I think if you're the U.S., that's a positive. I was a little concerned based on kind of what how they had played the previous 2 games, but I think Germany probably brought the best out of them, and now we'll see. Now we're getting into the meat of it.
So, as I said, you played in 4 Olympics, you won 2 gold medals. What is this period like, this kind of in-between time for the teams? I believe as part of your different runs, there were occasions when you had to play that extra game. There were occasions when you did not. I mean, what is that window of time like? Because this is such a short tournament.
Yeah, it is very compact. However, these players are now used to that that compression in the schedule, if you will. But not having that extra game, the play-in game to reach the quarterfinals, is a huge bonus. The less taxing you can put on your body and kind of roll into the quarterfinals prepped and recovered and ready, the better. Because then you've got semifinals on Friday and hopefully the gold medal game on Sunday morning, so or Sunday afternoon over there. So that'll be exciting to see how that all plays out. You've seen Finland, kind of coming on after a tough game. I guess a tough loss to Slovakia. They've looked good as well. So it'll be interesting to see. It looks like Sweden is on a collision course with the U.S. in the quarterfinal match, and Finland, if Canada's able to get past their quarterfinal opponent, and Finland, they look like they'll meet up in the semifinal. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, because there'll be a couple teams going home early.
All right, before I get to more of the particulars of the tournament, I want to ask you, I mean, you went to this tournament again 4 times. The first time, I think, at age 23. And then you finished out in 2010 at later in your career at 35, I believe. But what does this kind of tournament do for a player's confidence? Because, I mean, they're all the best of the best, particularly on Team USA and Team Canada. You played with, unbelievable players. I mean, Gretzky and Lemieux and different ones. And then you saw some younger guys at different points of your career and your opportunities to play in this tournament. What does it do for a player's confidence to have success at this level, best on best?
Yeah, when you're best on best on the biggest stage here with the Olympics, as we continue to go here, it's a measuring stick. You're able to really get a chance to have everybody together and best on best. There's you look at the lineups and you're like, wave after wave, and you're able to really gauge where your game's at. You're able to gauge the competition and figure out exactly what you need to work on. You're able to see how people prepare, how people practice, what they do before games, during games, to kind of either stay in it and stay focused, and then grab some of that and utilize that and add it into your repertoire as you kind of advance in your career. So, for instance, when I was 23, I'm sandwiched between Ray Bourque and Scott Stevens in the locker room, and I'm able to watch Rod Brindamore, how he trains and prepares. I'm able to see what Ray Bourque is doing, and so while I was able to see that a little bit with Al McInnes in St. Louis, it's good to get more looks at other players that you look up to, that you gain their game, you want to emulate. And so as your career progresses, every chance you get, whether it be an all-star game or a best-on-best tournament like this, you're able to utilize a lot of that information, and you're able to see those players that you're matched up against and try to pick apart some of their strengths and weaknesses that you can then use further on in your career.
Chris, you were on some great teams in your career, both in the NHL and obviously at the Olympics. When you have to win. I mean, this Canada team has to win before we could say, hey, they are at this level, right? I mean, because you lose a game in the quarterfinal, people they forget you pretty quick. But when I look at the number of players at the highest end of this roster, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon, Young, Celebrini, and Makar, I mean, those are 5 guys just in themselves. They're amongst the best players probably that will ever play this game. I mean, how good do you think this team is?
Well, I guess we won't know.
Yeah.
I think on paper and what we've seen to date against, albeit fairly weak competition relative to what they're going to get in the quarterfinals, semifinals, and hopefully gold medal game. But just looking at what they've been able to accomplish and how they've been able to play shift after shift and who they've been able to roll out there as line combinations. You look at the one, McDavid, McKinnon, and Celebrini, just the fact that he's 19 years old and able to not only keep up but play to that level with those 2 guys is incredibly impressive. And if you're a San Jose Sharks fan and you're seeing that as something that he can not only build on but take back and learn from, I think the future is very bright in San Jose with that kid.
Yeah, the funny thing about him, Chris, to me is like the offensive stuff, I bring it up quite a bit. I saw him at the Garden earlier in the year. He had a 5-point game against the Rangers. All that's great. He had 3 goals and 2 assists. But I just thought his willingness to be in the battle, to be in the kind of hand-to-hand, in the corners, in front of the net, his understanding of the 200-foot game, to me is what makes him extremely rare and extremely special.
Yeah, and I think that's why he was, we'll say it, he was a lock to make this team, was just based on that dogged determination to get the puck, to win loose puck battles, to win, the net front battles, to get pucks in, to either score or create opportunities for his line mates, and you're seeing that on display over at the Olympics. It's just, I think you can't speak highly enough about what he's been able to accomplish at such a young stage of his career, and where he can get to, what his ceiling is. You just never know. Just from a training perspective and how he's honed his game to this point, and then where he can go, especially after now seeing the McDavids and the Crosbys and the McKinnons and how they, utilize everybody around them, how they see the ice, and how he can really kind of pick apart their games now that he can see it firsthand and he's playing with them, and they can go back to the bench and talk about angles and lines that they can take either to the net or delays and things of that nature that I'm sure a lot of his teammates aren't as skilled enough to do. And he can bring a lot of that information, that detail back to his game in San Jose.
It's funny because playing with Crosby now, I think back to your team in 06, right? I mean, that was a discussion. Should Crosby be on that team? And in the end, he probably should have been. I don't believe they took him that year. Probably would have been smart to take him.
Yeah, you look, he was same age, 19, and that was the concern. Oh, is he ready? Is he, all the different things. Very similar with Matthew Schaefer, albeit a year younger, being his rookie year. It's hard. It's hard to really guess or gauge where a player is going to be at. Is it a mistake? You look at, somebody was telling me the other day, Crosby, after the Olympics, had his ascent and really started to take off, versus prior to that, I think the concern was, is he ready? He wasn't at a point of game yet. He wasn't, I'm going to use the word dominating, but being in the fight, so to speak, as we're talking about Celebrini.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until after the Olympics where he really took off and really started to be the player that we all know and love.
You played against Sydney. You played with him at the Olympics in 2010. Are you amazed at just how well he has continued to play, especially, playing in the center position where you have to they move him around a little bit at the Olympics, but I mean, still to be as good a player as he is at this stage of his career. I mean, how impressed have you been about what he's been able to do?
Well, I think just seeing, his dedication to the game, his training, his recovery, just everything about him. I remember back when he was injured with his concussions in Pittsburgh, is the same time that I was hurt, and we had a few conversations, and just you would see him practicing and you're like, how's this kid not playing? But he knew, he just, there's a little fogginess, there's a little where a lot of us may have come back to play. He was thinking long term. He was playing chess while we were playing checkers. And, and he knew there was something off. And clearly for his career, it was a smart decision just based on, his longevity now. Back then, you wouldn't have thought he would have been able to play at this high a level at this stage of his career. But, making those decisions way back then clearly helped him a lot.
So we talked about Celebrini, the younger guy, talk about Crosby, the older guy. Let's talk about the guy who's right in the middle, I guess, of things, Connor McDavid. And boy, he looks dialed right now. I mean, his eyes are wide watching him compete. Give me your thoughts on McDavid, what you've seen the first couple of games.
Yeah, I think for him, you can see all of them want to win so badly. Yeah. It's their first opportunity in 12 years to get back to the Olympics, and they want to take advantage of this chance to win gold for their country. And to see him every single time he's on the ice, he's making something happen. He knows he doesn't have to play 25, 26 minutes. He doesn't have to conserve energy. He doesn't have to save himself for later in the game. He's going they've got plenty of players to take some of the ice time away in different situations, so he can really focus on creating offense and really driving the play.
Yeah, he's been fantastic to watch. Like, Chris, you were one of the great players in your era, one of the great players in the history of the game. How much pressure do guys carry to win when they're at that level, when they're expected to win, when their careers are sometimes, looked at as like, hey, it's a failure if you didn't win?
A lot. And you can see it. You're laughing. I'm dead serious.
Yeah, I believe you.
When you haven't won, especially Connor, with having gone to the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row now, he's got that weight on him, you can see, of not having won a Stanley Cup yet. Do you really want to be the best player in the world and never be able to win a Stanley Cup? All these different things that people are going to say. And it's his internal drive. It's his will and want and desire to win championships and be a part of teams that compete and win championships. That's the determination and the will and the drive that you want from a leader, from the best player in the world. And, just to see how he's come dialed in after a long, 55, 56 game schedule before coming over in the NHL, to look that sharp and that dialed in, you can see how much he really wants it. And now we're getting into the money rounds, so we'll see if they can even ramp it up even more and get even more dialed. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
What's it like in these games? There's so much high expectations on Canada, as there always are, and the Team USA now has earned higher expectations as well. It's the best team. At least the depth of this group is better than any I can really remember over in their history. What's it like being on the bench in those games when it's tight? You were on the bench in 2010 in overtime. As the game unfolds and there's an expectation to win. 2002, you go back to that gold medal game. I just rewatched that the other day. It's crazy to look at some of the things that went on. Mike Richter stood on his head though, and you guys had the better of the team and the better of the play. But what's it like on the bench when you're supposed to be winning and the game is tied?
Yeah, you're just biding your time. It's And I think that's where experience. They've got a lot of guys in that locker room that have won Stanley Cups and championships, Four Nations. And I think that was a big selling point for the management team. And coming back with a lot of the same players from that Four Nations is they just won together. They went through a lot of ups and downs in that tournament. So to now, they've got a few new faces and breathe a little new life into the locker room.
Yeah.
And guys that kind of fill different holes on the team. So it's exciting. It's fun to watch. They play a very fun style of play to watch, and they're entertaining, while at the same time they look very disciplined in their lines and their angles, going to the net, getting on the forecheck, and then defensively, they don't seem to spend a lot of time in the defensive zone, which will be interesting as they get into tougher competition, how that plays out. But from the early games here, they look like they've defended very well. Their transition game has been on point, and they're able to, at the end of the day, they need these defensemen just to get the puck up to the forwards, tape to tape, crisply, so they can then get on their horse, get on the attack, and start creating a lot of the offense. And noticing how much they're utilizing the whole offensive zone. They're going low to high, D to D, down low, into the bumper, into the front of the net, changing sides. They're utilizing the whole offensive zone, which gets the opponent, the defensive team, to kind of get out of position a lot. And how quickly they're able to do it, I think, is going to really separate them in these next few games.
You mentioned that, getting guys stretched out or trying to take apart a defense. Is it hard, to get to a tournament like this? And when you get to those important games, because you have games, that you handle pretty easily, is it hard to get that connection with the guy your D partner? Is it with Team Canada? I mean, McCarr plays with Taves a lot, so they're very comfortable, but that's not usually the case, right?
Yeah, no. And again, it goes back to the continuity from the Four Nations, where they have played together a little bit. They know one another. They know tendencies a little bit. You can pick stuff up pretty quickly in tournaments like that. It's 9 or 10 days, but you're practicing a little bit, you're feeling it, and then you've got this tournament now. They have a good understanding of where players like the puck, defensemen and forwards. They've talked on the bench, they've talked in practice, they've talked about different scenarios where when I'm coming around the net, make sure you throw it here so when I'm picking it up, I can come to the net, or I can then come right into the bumper spot, into the high slot, into the hash mark area, wherever they want to go with it. They're having all these conversations on the bench. They're talking to the coaches. They're talking to, you can see them engaging on the bench, coming off the ice, or, I'm sure in between periods where they're looking at video and talking about different things. Hey, if this guy goes here, I'm going to then go XYZ spot. There's a lot more of that going on where you're not guessing. Mm-hmm. And there's just that internal communication where a lot of what ifs. Hey, if this happens, I want you to do this, and all that kind of stuff, so that come game time and come that scenario, you know exactly what that guy's going to do, and you can react to it.
I want to ask you about one more particular player in this tournament. It seems like Austin Matthews is somebody that he is really under. There's just a lot of scrutiny. I mean, I guess that's the way it is. The captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now he's the captain of Team USA. You've been that guy. You know how it is. But it just seems like he's like a stock that changes every 10 minutes. Like, he's playing good. He's not playing as good. Oh, he scored. Oh, he didn't score. I mean, what do you make of Matthews' game as we move now into these big moments over the next few days?
Yeah, I think it's, again, people are going to look at him. They're going to, if they like him, they're going to try to prop him up. If they don't like him, they're going to try to dig him into a deeper hole.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, how he performs in these next 3 games are going to matter the most. It's not what he's done these first 3. It's going to matter what he does these next 3. And, how he plays, how he leads. And, everybody's looking at, the Tkachuk brothers, dragging them into the fight. But that's their job. That's their role. Yeah. Everybody has roles. Everybody's a leader in their own right, and everybody plays to their identity. That's not what he does. Like, don't expect him to go out there and try to run guys through the boards.
Yeah.
That's not his job. That's not his role on this team. And I think sometimes people look past that a little bit, and they try to look for things to manufacture what he is or isn't doing. I'm not going to discount the first 3 games, but I don't really look at those games as anything other than a warm-up for the time that really matters the most. So we'll see. It's it's going to play out real quick here this week.
Yes, it will. Yes,
and either people will either be jumping off the bandwagon or it's going to be a full bandwagon.
Yeah, it is so true. I think you experienced it, so you know it firsthand.
Quite often, yes, I
did. Hey, Chris, what's it like coming back from the Olympics? I mean, you did it 4 different times. What's it like? I mean, coming back and then getting reacclimated and then getting back into NHL games. Is there a letdown? I mean, what's that like?
Well, when you win, it's awesome.
Yeah.
As you might imagine.
Yeah.
It's good. When we won in Salt Lake, we just happened to, with the Blues, we just happened to be going on a Western Canada swing. So we're going into Vancouver, we're being lauded and applauded and whatnot. And the Americans on our team were not too pleased. And then in 2010, obviously, we went in Vancouver and everywhere we went afterwards. We go our separate ways. I was in Philly, and you're excited about what you can build on from that. And I think for the times when you don't, you come home, you're upset, you're kind of wondering what happened. Where did we go wrong? What could I have done? And then you're thrust right back into the NHL, into our season. And so you have to kind of turn the page quickly, both when you win and when you lose, because your team's counting on you. Yeah. You need to get up to speed real quick. And you're playing at this high level of play. The speed is like nothing you've seen before. And then you come back to the NHL and it's just here because everybody is here, but now you've got some guys that are here, some guys that are here, some guys that are here. And it's you have to get reacclimated. Your the lines that you take, the passing lanes, the players reading off of you, you have to recalibrate and readjust. And sometimes that's a challenge. And when the tournament, for instance, in '98, tournament was in Nagano.
Yeah.
Well, you got jet lag, you've got all those things. I was 23, Al was 33. So he had, he's a little bit older. He had a little bit of problem with the jet lag.
Yeah.
And just, recovery and coming back. I was younger and it didn't affect me as much. Whereas, you go Italy in '06, we lost in the quarterfinals and we flew home right after, and you're taking a couple days to kind of clear your head and recharge and refresh, and then we got right back into the season. And you're in a playoff fight. You're in wherever you are at. You've got to re-engage and get your head out of the malaise or thinking about what coulda, shoulda, woulda, and just refocus on your NHL season and your team in particular and what you need to do to help your team win.
Hey, real quick, you mentioned 2010 in Vancouver. I have to ask you, you've been in 4 of these. Was that the most pressure to win because you were playing at home?
I think yes, in 2 reasons. One, we got obliterated in '06. Yeah. It was just such a disaster on so many fronts. We were just discombobulated. We never really found our footing, and really struggled in Torino, and then to come in Canada, rolling over into the new generation of player with Taves and Crosby and a lot of Getzlaf, Perry, a lot of younger guys coming into the fold, Keith, Doughty, Seabrook. So you're getting a lot of these younger guys into the mix. So it kind of rolled over from the veterans. '06 was a little bit of a different year. There was a lot of different guys that kind of came in because a lot of the older guys had retired, and these younger guys hadn't quite got there yet. So there was a little different types of players that were taken in '06, and then to get 10, obviously the Americans are on the rise. A number of teams, we had a tough. People don't realize how hard that semifinal game was against the Slovaks.
Yeah, that came right down to the end, right? They pushed right at the end.
Right down to the end. They had a number of great opportunities late to tie the game. So, they had a really good team too. So, you think you got Hossa, Dimitra, Chara, like you're going through the list of guys that they had. They had a lot of Hall of Famers in their own right. So, I think just, we were battle tested and, having lost that game to the Americans early and everybody was up in arms. Oh my God, these guys are going to blow it. But what they forgot was that the round robin in the end doesn't really matter that much.
That's right. Like 2002, you guys lost to Sweden, and then it turned out you never even played them again. They lost to Belarus.
Sometimes you need a wake-up call, and in both of those tournaments, in 2002 and 2010, losing those games in the long run, I think, helped us, number one, refocus, but helped us figure out how we needed to play. And it was a building process and finding the line combinations, the chemistry, and really kind of dialing ourselves in. And you could see that 2002 team getting better with each game. You could see guys buying into their roles better. You could see just everything, the molding and the shaping of the clay all coming together. And likewise in 2010, to a little bit of a different degree, but guys really understanding how we needed to play, and then really just giving it everything we had each and every night. We come in, we got Russia in the quarterfinals. We're like, they beat us in Italy in 06. So, you want to lay the hammer down on them, and we came out and just laid the boots to them.
Yeah.
Which gave us the confidence that, okay, we've got this in this locker room, and then from there we kind of started rolling.
All right, I'm not going to ask you who you think is going to win, but I will ask you this. Do you think that we will get that U.S.-Canada gold medal game on Sunday morning here in the States?
I hope we do.
Okay.
I hope we do for the game.
Yeah.
I just think getting those two teams for our game, for the growth of the game, for TV, for everything, it would be awesome. If I'm the U.S., Sweden has looked very average at best. If they catch lightning in a bottle, look out.
Yeah. They got a good roster.
They have a really good roster. They haven't. I don't know what's going on in their locker room. I don't know what's going on with that team, but they've been very average. And if they all of a sudden turn the light switch on, and America's not ready, that could be a tough game for them. And by the way, the Finns have figured it out, but I just think if Canada plays Finland in the semis, they're going to be throwing wave after wave at them. They're going to just, I think they're going to cave them in.
Too much horsepower.
And they're going to have too much horsepower, too much pressure, too much speed.
Yeah.
And again, defense and goaltending, we've talked about it ad nauseum.
Yeah.
If they can hold up for Canada, I don't foresee them being stopped by anybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen.
If they're able to defend well, if they keep their gaps and they defend well, that's going to limit the opportunities against, Canada from a defensive standpoint. And if they can get that transition game going and just get north and south, get moving quick, they're going to be real tough to stop.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. But hey, listen, thanks so much for the time today. I could talk to you for hours. You're a busy man. You got things to do. Thanks again for the time. Enjoy the rest of the tournament, and hopefully I'll see you down the road.
Absolutely. Thanks, EJ. Take care.
All right. Chris Pronger, 4-time Olympian, Hockey Hall of Famer. Thanks so much for the time for joining us today on the Toronto Sports Rush right here on the Bet Rivers Network.
Thanks for watching Toronto Sports Rush on the Bet Rivers Network.